probably seen the video, 6 Dangerous People Carl Jung warned you about. Several channels have made nearly the exact same one. Here's the problem. Jung never actually wrote that list. It's a modern internet framework built on top of his real ideas, with at least one term, psychic vampire, that isn't Jungian at all. That's not a small correction, because the real version underneath it is more useful than the fabricated list, not less. 4 real mechanisms from Jung's actual work explain nearly every pattern that video is gesturing at. And unlike the listicle, you can go verify these yourself.
But I promise you, 4 genuine Jungian concepts, and exactly why the psychic vampire you've heard about doesn't need an invented name. It's already fully explained by the real theory. The persona trap. Jung's concept of the persona, the social mask shaped by what others expect of you, is genuine and foundational. The problem isn't having a persona. Everyone does. The problem is a specific failure mode. Someone who is fused so completely with the mask that there's very little authentic self left underneath it to actually connect with. In relationships, this shows up as someone who says all the right things, performs warmth or success convincingly, but interactions with them leave you feeling like you never quite met a real person. Not because they're lying, necessarily. Often they've lost track of the difference themselves. The tell? Does anything about this person hold up consistently when no one's watching? Or does the presentation only exist for an audience? That's the surface level pattern. The next one explains something much more corrosive. People who are actively harmful without ever consciously deciding to be. 2. Unintegrated shadow and projection. Jung's concept of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to consciously acknowledge, is one of his most substantial and well-documented ideas. Everyone has one. The relationally dangerous pattern is specific. Someone whose shadow stays fully unintegrated, meaning it doesn't disappear. It gets projected outward instead. Projection means unconsciously attributing your own disowned traits, jealousy, dishonesty, cruelty, onto someone else, and then reacting to that person as though the trait were theirs, not yours. This is why some people seem to accuse others of exactly what they themselves are doing, with total sincerity. They're not lying. They genuinely can't see the trait in themselves, so it has to belong to someone else. The tell. Notice if you consistently feel blamed for things that, on reflection, don't actually track back to anything you did. That mismatch is often the shadow of the person doing the accusing, not an accurate account of you. Shadow projection explains sudden blame. This next one explains something different. People who seem to have the same fight, the same collapse, over and over, regardless of context. 3. The complex-driven reaction. Jung's concept of a complex, a cluster of unresolved emotional material organized around a core wound, like abandonment or inadequacy, is genuine and central to his clinical work. A complex operates semi-independently of ordinary reasoning. When something touches it, the reaction that follows is disproportionate to the actual trigger, because it's not really about the trigger. It's the old wound responding. This is why some people seem to have the exact same explosive argument repeatedly with different people over situations that look completely unrelated on the surface. The surface situation isn't the actual subject. The complex is. The tell. If a reaction feels wildly out of proportion to what actually happened, You're very likely watching someone's complex react, not the adult in front of you responding to the present moment.
The last one isn't really about a type of dangerous person at all. It's about a specific relationship to your own individuality, and why some people find that threatening.
4. Failure of individuation and control. Individuation, Jung's term for the lifelong process of becoming a distinct, integrated self, separate from collective and family expectations, is arguably his central idea. Someone who is never meaningfully individuated remains deeply identified with a role, a group, or a persona instead of a self. Here's the relational danger in that. An undifferentiated person often experiences someone else's individuation, someone else becoming genuinely themselves with their own boundaries and choices, as a threat, because it implicitly highlights the identity work they've avoided in themselves. This is frequently disguised as concern, advice, or moral
judgment about your choices, when the actual function is control, keeping you inside a role they can still recognize and manage. The tell? Does their concern only ever appear when you're becoming more yourself, more independent, more differentiated? Or does it show up consistently, regardless of what you're doing?
The honest debunk revisited.
So, the psychic vampire. Here's why you don't actually need that term. Someone who drains your energy through chronic neediness or subtle demands is very often a combination of the first two patterns. A persona built around being the perpetual victim, and a shadow they've never examined, projected outward as your responsibility to manage. The experience is completely real. The invented vocabulary just isn't necessary to explain it. Jung's actual concepts already do the job, and they come with almost a century of clinical use behind them instead of a decade of YouTube retellings. This matters beyond just being pedantic about sourcing. Once you're working with the real concepts, you can also apply them to yourself. Everyone has a persona, a shadow, and complexes. The genuinely Jungian move isn't building a checklist to identify dangerous people out there. It's using these same concepts to notice your own projections too.
4 real concepts: persona, shadow and projection, complexes, and individuation. Explain nearly everything the viral 6 Dangerous People video gestures at, minus the invented vocabulary and the mystical framing. And they come with the advantage that you can go read Jung's actual work and verify every one of them yourself. Next time you see a Carl Jung says avoid these X people video, that's usually your sign to check whether it's actually Jung or Jung's name borrowed to sell a listicle. If you want more of the real theory behind these viral psychology trends, that's basically what this channel is for. Subscribe if you're in.